All right, chances are that if you own a car, you use the freeway to get where you need to go. Freeways were built to go alleviate congestion from cities during the 1940s, and it makes going from one place to another more easier and faster. But I believe we all benefit from the city in California, but I believe that freeways have done more harm than good. Take, for example, Los Angeles. Los Angeles was built around a car culture. We use freeways all the time, but the problem was that they built cities through different neighborhoods of the core, like South Park, Westlake, Chinatown, Boyle Heights, and some other parts. But what ended up happening was that they built freeways over land that people had lived and worked on. So what it did, it was like made a lot of people homeless, or it disconnected parts of the cities from other parts. And it backfired because instead of going to downtown Los Angeles, more people go to Hollywood or other places, and it just left the place to decay. Secondly, I would like to talk about pollution because, like it affects everyone. And all right, UCLA, studies in UCLA by UCLA researchers found that people who live around cities, like they're more prone to heart and lung problems later on in life, and it's due mostly because when you're in freeways, like there's a lot of pollution and smog that just gets concentrated there. And also they also found out that 50% of babies that live around the freeways have developed autism compared to babies that live further away from freeways. And secondly, this for me is the most important one. I think it has caused social problems. For example, like they not only did they build the freeways to go make traveling more easier, but they also used it to go segregate racial populations at the time during World War II, after World War II. Like for instance, East LA is divided by the freeway that divides it on the east, and on the south it's divided by South Park, which is dominantly black, and it divides the north, which is dominantly Chinese or Asian, Chinatown. While all of the west side is all Westlake, Hollywood, and back then those were like suburbs used for white soldiers coming back from the war, to increase population. And what ended up happening was when white people left the urban area to go to the rural, all the money went with them. But all the money, and I guess the minorities got left with little money, little education, and little power. And I believe that's why there's gangs and crimes and all that stuff, poverty in these other areas compared to Hollywood or Beverly Hills. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that freeways, even though they are a scar to how past perspectives were about race and all that stuff, we can use freeways or learn from freeways and try to use new ways to go work on it. All right, thanks. Like that.
All right, well, I like the nice common reference that you make at the beginning to kind of pull us in, and then you've got a clear statement of what your point of view is. The supporting material, though, instead of focusing on one of these harms, you've got multiple harms. You're talking about segregation, you're talking about poverty, you're talking about pollution, you're talking about a variety of harms. I think you need to pick one, and let's develop an argument about that. If you want to argue that the development of the freeways has led to segregation of the population by ethnicity, then you could do that and give us the examples that, that where you talk about, Chinatown or South Central or the West Side, those kinds of things, and then give us a statistic that shows, for example, that that's what the trend was before or after the freeways went into effect, and then give us a piece of testimony, somebody who is a scholar who's researched this, this anthropology that goes on with the freeway system, and let's hear what they have to say about those things. But basically, it's kind of like you come up with pollution and you drop in a statistic, and you talk about segregation and you've got a vague example without any particulars to it, and then you just talk about like I said, the crime issues or other problems with poverty, and it seems like every time you're changing subjects, you then either try to plug in some information or you just generally make the claim and don't present any information to support it, and I think that's a problem. Your statistics, the only statistic that I really heard had to do with some issue about autism being related to how close people live to the freeway, and it sounds like it's a pretty dramatic statistic there, but I didn't get any source citations on any of the information in the speech. I don't know where you got this information from. It sounds very suspect to me. It's a very vague statement, 50%. That makes it sound like, if you live with this close to a freeway, half of the kids in that close to the freeway have autism. Well, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm not sure that there is a statistic that says this, and it would be so much more convincing if you could tell me, according to the American Autism Society, there's a research project that said kids living within 2 blocks of the freeway have a 50% greater chance of getting autism. That I could see, okay. But as it's presented here, it doesn't even sound like it's a real statistic. The examples that you present are all very generic in nature. They're not very particular, and most of the examples that we're looking for are particular. So you talk about, how the freeway bisected Chinatown and South Central. South Park, I don't know, maybe they've referred to it that place, someplace else. I've lived in Southern California all my life. We don't have a South Park that I know of. We've got South Central, which is, exactly what it sounds like. Central Avenue runs there, and it's south of the freeway, so that's where it starts. And I went to school in South Central, by the way. That's where USC is. So, I know that area. So that seems a little bit strange. So, like I said, you just got to get these things tightened up a little bit. It just sounds very abstract and vague here. All right.